Welcome to Don't Pick the Scab Podcast, where we explore topics, therapies, and out-of-the-box solutions for my men over 40 recovering from divorce. Welcome to the show, Wendy Rose Williams. She is a past life energy healer that helps people discard physical and emotional pain, anxiety, depression, and stuck energy. Welcome to the Don't Pick the Scab Podcast, with the premise of connecting men over 40 with the tools and community to thrive in their divorce recovery, either before, during, or after a divorce. Check it out. Being a certified spiritual healer, her healing process is grounded in hypnotherapy. Thanks for being on the show, Wendy, and tell us a little about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Oh, thanks so much for having me as your guest. I appreciate being here with you, David, and your audience. So as you mentioned, I'm an energy healer, and it's a wonderful, amazing surprise, a second career that came up for me to discover that I had the spiritual gift of helping people release pain, anxiety, depression, stuck energy. And we don't realize it, but we can just so often be playing out these old tapes.
Okay.
And I think divorce is one of those big moments where just so many emotions, and it can kick off so much fear and anxiety and concern, anger. It can just kick off so many emotions. So it's just a perfect time to be able to find some ways. How can you alleviate that? How can you release that? How can you get grounded? Can you have a daily spiritual practice? Some people certainly, it's prayer, it's meditation, it's taking a walk every day. It's doing some yoga. It's whatever we need to do to just get ourselves grounded and clear and feeling good.
Can you explain how past life energy healing works and how it can help individuals release emotional pain and anxiety?
Yes, absolutely. My belief is that we are eternal souls and that our souls are very intrepid. Our higher self just wants to take these different things on to be able to learn and progress. And it's just a way of journeying back to whatever your belief system is. For some people, it's God, it's heaven, it's the light, it's home, it's source, it's universe, nirvana, Summerlands, whatever your belief is, but the soul just wants to get in here and take on these different lives. So guess what? We choose a lot of experiences. We choose challenges. We choose certainly some wonderful things. And then there's also that free will aspect to it all that just takes all the planning that I believe that we do before we incarnate and just puts it all into a big shaker box. And just changes it all, because we can't really tell how it's all gonna come out, because everyone else has got their plans and their free will and their destiny. But specifically with divorce, I think, as I said, it's just finding a way to get really grounded. And I believe hypnotherapy can help us do that, because what it is, it's simply a technique where you're working one-on-one, or you might be doing a group hypnotherapy session with someone leading you through. And the idea is to be able to relax. You still have your free will. This is not dance like a chicken, Las Vegas entertainment hypnosis. That is not the purpose of this. The purpose is to be able to settle down, to go within, to find your own truth in a really beautiful way and know what's next for you, what's right for you, and be able to release those old tapes. Because David, until we're able to figure out the truth of what's really going on, and why do I seem to keep attracting the same sort of situation that just really frustrates me, makes me angry, or makes me really scared, and those things can be very linked, because anger is a secondary emotion. Yes, it's very valid, it's very real, but we've got to peel the onion of, why am I really angry? How can I appropriately let go of this in a way that's not harming others and is not harmful to myself? But it doesn't do any good to just stuff it down, because often people may have been socialized. You shouldn't be angry. What are you angry about? You may have been told that as a child, or just in general have been told you shouldn't be sad, or you shouldn't have that emotion, or what's wrong with you? Man up. You shouldn't be crying. You shouldn't be feeling this so intensely. Again, it is a leveler to go through a divorce, whether it is our choice, whether it's our
Yep.
spouse's choice, or whether it's a mutual decision, regardless. Just having that sort of a session where you're able to relax and learn that you're truly loved and supported. Get yourself more grounded, more centered via the hypnotherapist working with you to do that. And basically, you feel almost like you get so relaxed, it's almost like you're going to fall asleep. It's like you're getting ready to fall asleep at night, or like when you first wake up in the morning and you're half awake, you're half asleep.
Hmm.
And that's all it is. So it's simply a free will choice to relax to that point, and then to start to be able to release that past life energy, those old tapes that just keep coming up again and again because we haven't understood the lesson. Why do I keep attracting this certain type of person or this certain type of experience, as I mentioned? And or we can find the fears and the phobias. Perhaps we're going to find a past life
Hmm.
where we took a vow of poverty, because going through a divorce can really change things for us financially, or we can be afraid it's going to change things for us financially in a very detrimental way. So we're afraid we're going to lose this, we're going to lose this. And what if I can't see my kids often enough? How are my kids going to do in all this? So just so many fears can come up. We can be blaming ourselves, we can be blaming the other person. There can be a lot of shame that comes up, and those lower
Definitely. Yep.
vibration energies, they really hurt. They're hard to be willing to feel and to know what to do with them. So those are the types of energies and emotions that we're able to understand and to let go of. They might be from this lifetime too, because divorce can trigger us back into perhaps our parents divorced. Or there was another difficult, challenging, contentious divorce. Maybe a good friend did, and or a neighbor did, and we saw things go really sideways for them. So again, we can be projecting all these fears onto it. So just being able to be in the present moment is so much of what past life regression does for us. And I think that can sound a little counterintuitive. How does focusing on the past and understanding the past, how does that improve now? It improves now because we can find the lifetime or the lifetime of origin. We very likely have had a past life with our spouse that we're divorcing from. And just so then you've got like this multitude of extra weight to it because it's happened before. And again, it may have gone very, very poorly for one or both parties or for the entire family. So this is our chance to rise up and do it better and just be kind to your spouse. And I know that might sound very challenging, but when you can find a
Very.
way to be as kind and as fair as you can with that other person, and saying things to them, like during the process when you're negotiating things, what do you need? And I would ask, I've been divorced since 2005. And that
Hmm.
was one of the key questions I found to ask my former husband, because we were divorcing after 18 years, two small children involved, and just wanted to make sure that he felt okay. And sometimes it was the littlest things. It was something that really was easy for me to do and was just
Hmm.
not a big deal for me. And then at times I would need to say to him, I'd really appreciate it if we could do this. I'd really appreciate if you could help me out with this and that type of thing. And just, we worked to keep the focus on our daughters because they were 6 and 8. So we knew it was going to be long haul trucking to learn how to be respectful co-parents together. And we did go for a couple of counseling sessions together, just he and I, And that was so helpful. It was not for the purpose, it was not marriage counseling. The decision had been made that we were going to be divorcing, but we went to the counselor to get some new ideas on sticking points, because we did have some sticking points around how we were going to do the residential schedule,
Hmm.
exactly who was going to live where, how we were going to divide certain assets. Those 2 or 3 visits to that counselor were,
Wow.
because to have a professional who does this frequently, and he or she has no heat in it.
No
They don't
skin in
have
the game.
the big emotions you might be having. And because my former husband was not very excited about seeing a counselor for a few sessions, so I said to him, what if you chose the counselor? You're welcome to choose whoever you want. You choose the counselor for the 2 of us to go to. Could we please do it that way and just give it a try? We'll go for 1 session. If it's not useful, obviously we don't go again. So he chose someone. It was a casual friend of his that he knew through church,
Hmm.
was a counselor. She said, let's go see so and so. Great, absolutely. But that sort of thing, when you can do some give and take, because you've, particularly if children are involved, you've got to learn, how do we rise up and be respectful co-parents. So the rules we put in that the 2 of us agreed to were very simple but very profound. And that was, neither one of us was going to say anything negative about the other person to
Yep.
our children. And we were going to really focus on them. I did a lot of reading of just how to break this to the children, how to share this information, how to get in resources for them ahead of time so that they could go to people, grandmom, or like a teacher or a sports coach, or just special adults that were already in their life. We gave them some warning and let those adults know, we're going to be telling the children this on this certain day. So you may be seeing some behaviors. You may need to, if you could provide some special support for them, because they were little girls. And we also asked our children, we made it very clear to them, to the best of our ability, you're always going to be taken care of. We both love you. I know this might sound very scary and very upsetting, but we're still going to be a family, but in a different way. We're still going to do things together. And then again, just saying to them, what do you need? So when they had a chance to digest it, because of course it was shocking, upsetting,
Hmm.
crying, running from the room. Again, this is 6 and 8-year-old. And we did have my mom come to town, and she was purposefully staying with us so that they could go to grandmom, and grandmom was in the house in case they needed to go to that other adult. And that was a good strategy.
Okay.
So those were just some of the things that came up. But to get back to so I should stop at this point, David. Any questions about that?
God, you've answered almost all my questions. Get out of my head, Wendy. Get out of my head.
Oh, you're so
Um,
funny.
I'm a big co-parent talker. Co-parenting is so important. And it took me a while to figure it out. And one of my podcasters told me that you need to love your kids more than you hate your ex.
Correct.
And I wish I would have known that, man, because it was tough. But let's get back to the past life regression. I
Sure.
have one more question. What are some of the common issues or patterns that you saw or see in past life regression that affect people's
Yes.
present relationships, particularly after a divorce?
Yes. So what I see is that my belief is that, and Journey of Souls was such a helpful book for me by Dr. Michael Newton,
Yeah.
of just looking at the big picture of what's going on with us before we incarnate and choose what we're going to work on. My belief is that we have soulmates or soul families, and they're
Hmm.
simply souls or people that we incarnate with many times, and we can come back in different roles. So you're not always married to the same person. You don't always have the same parents. We can come back in different roles. But there can be some soul recognition, because when you think back to when you met your spouse and you were getting together and you were going through all those delightful, amazing, happy times that led to you getting married,
Hmm.
may have been this feeling of, oh, there you are. Think back to that first time you met. Oh, I've been looking for you. Oh, we have to catch up. That's this soul level recognition. We have those wonderful feelings. So we choose to go on and move forward and get married and to have children. Many people want and hope to be blessed by having
Hmm.
children in that union. And then as things can start to play out, there's soul contracts, and the concept of soul contracts, it's agreements. Don't let the word contract sound
Okay.
scary and legalistic. Contracts can always be changed. There's these agreements we've made. For instance, I just felt so much at peace when I was able to find via my own past life regressions and healing sessions with me as the client, when I was able to get to the bottom line, what is my soul contract with my husband, former husband? When I was able to figure that out, it brought the most huge smile to my face. It was like a feeling of peace and relief because the soul contract that I found, what the agreement we made before we met, was to have a long-term marriage together that we would both grow from considerably and have beautiful children together. I can't tell you, that was just a game changer. Neither of us did anything wrong. It's just simply the soul contract had been fulfilled. And that takes away so much of the blame game of, oh,
Okay.
if this person would only do this, if they only change that. And it's just when you've got a lot of this you language, like, if you would just do this or not do this, the finger pointing. No, no, it's really a journey within of what can I be doing to help this situation for, in my case, for the four of us, and trying to really take that personal responsibility. I was also able to find previous lifetimes with my former husband, and that gave me such relief. Because, for instance, I found a lifetime in the 1600s, colonial America. It was actually Plymouth Plantation, Massachusetts, where I had been a young female of marriageable age from like late teens, and he came courting. So we had this ride out, horse drawn buggy through the cornfields,
Hmm.
and we had this courting. We asked my parents' permission, and we shared a single kiss. And he had said, let's go further. I want to get engaged. I want to look at marrying you. And I just knew he wasn't the right man for me back in the 1600s. So this just created it was like an open loop that
Mm.
hadn't been finished. So I thanked him and I wish you all the best, but you're not the right man for me. So thank you so much for this opportunity and this afternoon together. So he became what's called a spurned suitor, an old fashioned term of someone courting you that you have turned away. And guess where we end up living? Guess where we end up? I'm from Quebec. He's from Southern California. Guess where we end up living? Right near Plymouth, Massachusetts. We end up living
Plymouth Rock.
just north of Boston because energy just comes forward. If you haven't finished it out and if it's going to be
Hmm.
beneficial for you. So we meet and marry in the Boston area. And was just that old energy coming up, and found other lifetimes together too. But this past life energy, it can lead to fears, it can lead to phobias, it can
Mm.
lead to a lot of issues. So if we have like this crushing fear of public speaking, of heights, of spiders, dogs, intimacy, success, whatever it might be, it has got a past life origin to it. And when we're able to go back to that lifetime of origin, because the prompt that I give to clients when we're working together in session is go to the time and place with the most uplift and healing and information for your life now. Because I want it to be practical and help enhance the life now. But that's open ended. the way the prompt is given. So you might go back to scenes earlier in this lifetime because there may be something to clean up there. Inner child healing is very real in just resolving things from this lifetime, as is shadow self healing, embracing that part of us that we least. And often we find that's where the anger can be coming in because we're just so frustrated. We feel like life is not meeting our expectations, and it's very easy to get in that victim place. Why is this happening to me?
Definitely. Oh, yeah, I see that. Yep.
Rather than why is this happening for me? So if you can just take a breath and really look at that and think about, okay, what if I'd never met my spouse? What would my life have been like? What would I have not experienced that was very positive, very wonderful, very uplifting, instructive, even if it may have been challenging? You have just developed skills and abilities and progressed, hopefully, via this marriage, and then can do even more so by doing a conscious uncoupling that's as kind and respectful and fair as you can make it be. And I know that's hard to do because courts are involved, and it's just, again, trying to stay out of that victim place and just looking at the reality of how are we going to make this work for all of us. So that's how that past life energy can
Hmm.
be coming up. I see it can be that people were forbidden from marrying before. There was like a near miss. So it might have been like a spurned suitor, like I described. It could have been a forbidden, like the parents wouldn't allow it, or one person or the other said no. Often there's a romantic rival involved, and that can be very messy from past lives, and that can come forward to now if a third individual was involved in potentially in the marriage ending. And if it's a solid marriage, if it's a healthy marriage, doesn't matter who and what's around, it's not going to disturb it. But if it's at that point where there's things that are underlying causes that are not being addressed, then a third party can be the precipitating event
Hmm.
to ending it. And often I find with clients who have these very contentious relationships that they just don't understand, like, why can my stepdaughter just not stand me beyond the obvious of you're another adult coming in that they didn't choose? I often find there's like a romantic rival, or why does my sister just hate me and has hated me since childhood? And I find it's often these odd romantic rivalries coming up from past lifetimes. So it's just big emotions that have not been dealt with. And it's a chance for us to get it right this lifetime.
Wow.
Even though most of us marry very thoughtfully and with hearts wide open, most of us marry wanting and expecting and planning for it to be for a lifetime. But sometimes the relationship is for a reason. And when that reason has been fully met, or it's for a season, so to speak, it
Yep.
does not mean that the relationship was a failure. It does not mean you are a failure. It does not mean that other person is a failure. It simply means the energy, it's run its course. So I had a former boyfriend who said that to me because I was really beating myself up when our relationship ended. And he just said to me so simply, I'll forever be grateful for it. And just told you my heart in a good place, but we can't work it out. We had an irreconcilable difference,
Hmm.
and we couldn't go further. Even though we did have a soul contract to marry in this lifetime, we negated that, and just because it was not, it was going to be very problematic.
What are some practical steps that men can take to release energy that no longer serves them,
Exactly.
especially during the emotional turmoil of a divorce?
I think whatever you can do to take care of yourself in a healthy way, it is a
Self
great
care.
time to go for
Yes.
counseling, to find a men's support group, to find a specific uplifting a divorce recovery and do these things. You may be doing things with your spouse, but that doesn't mean that you're getting taken care of what you need individually. So it's absolutely, and be very careful what you share with friends and or family members, because they're not in your shoes and you don't want to create more heat and more messiness, and you don't want them like, oh, she's terrible or he's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
That is not helpful. It's just not helpful. So you just want to be as loving and respectful of that other person as you can. And often it takes support for us individually to be able to do that. But you've also got to be very clear-eyed. You're not here to be a doormat. You're not here to be an ATM. And it's just, you have to look at what's your life going to look like? Because probably a move is going to be involved for at least one
Mm-hmm.
person, if not both people. And often a move for both people is what's best. But again, what's best for the children. So what we chose to do was, my former husband stayed in our home because with some effort and difficulty and changing things around in his budget, he could manage to keep that mortgage and that home going on his own without me. I couldn't do it. So we agreed I would move out and he would keep that home for a couple of years to be stability for our daughter. So they didn't have to change schools, because changing schools meant losing most of their friends and meant
Mm-hmm.
losing Girl Scout troop and meant losing a lot of things. So I moved, and then we did the drive back to take the kids to the same school. So we agreed to live close to each other too, because that was really, really an important part of it to get this to all work. Whatever you can do for stability for the children, but you've just got to look for that for yourself. I think it's the perfect time. If you don't already have a daily spiritual practice, it is the time to find one. It might be a 15-minute walk. It might be a short meditation. It might be drumming. It might be doing some yoga or Tai Chi or movement. It might be running. Oh my gosh, it might be kickboxing. Because just you got to get that energy that's not serving you out of your body too, and just be finding that way. Maybe it's journaling, maybe it's listening to your favorite music, reading your favorite book, watching some comedies. Try to
Yep.
restore your sense of humor and to know that you're going to be okay, because it can just feel like everything's falling apart. And that moment when everything's falling apart, because divorce is a big one. It's like losing a job that you really care about, or a major health challenge, or losing a loved one. Divorce is right up there with one of the
Mm-hmm.
biggest challenges. So it's just that time to take great care of yourself and look for the right help for you, whether it's the divorce recovery, whether it's doing an energy healing session, because we can get into the specifics of, oh my gosh, you guys are playing this out again. Let's get it resolved this time, and just be able to release the energy and finish the lesson that hasn't been completed.
Yep. Let's talk about self-care a little bit deeper. I had a problem with that because I did the week on, week off with my kids, chains on Sunday, and it worked well. But I find myself throwing myself to my kids, and not taking care of myself. So I equate it to when the plane's going down and you put your kids' oxygen mask on first, and you're screwed.
Exactly. You've now passed out. You've now
Yeah.
created a problem for those around you.
Yeah. So I learned the hard way that I had to take care of myself in order to take care of my kids. So what do you think about that?
You're absolutely right. That it's a great analogy. You've got to put, and it may not be your instinct. That's why they have to tell you that on an
Yep.
airplane, because it may not be your instinct. So was it specifically during the week on, because you were also working during that
Yep.
week, had to get them to school? So was it just hair on fire? It was like
Yep.
so
Yeah. One of
much.
my podcaster called it the Jack in the Box dad, where you just did pop. So that week, the Jack in the Box comes out, and then you put it away. The week it's gone, and then you go into a little seclusion. But even that week they're gone, you got to take care of yourself.
Exactly. You're so right, because that expression too of you have nothing to give to others if your well is empty,
Yeah.
and you're crabby, you're not nice to be around. And also you're just teaching your children not to take care of themselves because it's give, and they don't see you taking a breath, just doing what you need to do for you, including that during that intense Jack in the Box week when you've got a that's a good one. Yeah, we did a different schedule. It's pretty complex, so it's only based on there has to be a lot of communication and
Mhm.
cooperation, or you can't do it. We did like half weeks and then every other weekend. But over the years, the schedule changed too because the
Yep.
kids' needs change. They want to be with their friends. So
They
it
blow you off.
ends which friends are where. And
Wendy, my men have about a 30-minute attention span. But I want to come back to this, though, one day for sure, because I think we just broached the surface. If you could leave our listeners with one key takeaway about the importance of what you preach, what would you say?
Lucille Ball has a quote to the effect of love yourself first and everything else will fall into place,
Hmm.
because then we're just radiating that out. And I think that's just so important, and to just remember to breathe because we just get so busy and so stressed. And children are just more flexible than we think. So just ask
I believe that too.
what
Oh,
they
yeah.
need.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
And when I asked my daughters, I was so heartened. I asked them a couple years after the divorce, how do you feel? And now that we've been in two households successfully for a number of years, and we get the best of both worlds. And they actually were able to say a couple things that were in it for them, which I was so
Wow.
heartened by to hear that,
Interesting.
because they felt they traveled more because they're traveling separately with mom, they're traveling separately
Hmm.
with dad, they traveled with grandma. They're like, we get to see, because they were actually in three households because they were at my mom's house a lot after school and before school because parents are working full-time jobs. So we were very fortunate
Hmm.
she was helping with that. And they said, we see that there's different ways to do things. And it's just so let go of the judgment. It's just there's different ways of doing things. And
Yeah.
that's great.
Wow. How can my audience find you on the internet?
Best
And
way
then
is
I'll,
via my website, which
yep.
is Wendy.com, and there you'll find how to work with me privately. You'll also find some uplifting group events on the events tab. You'll find the
Hmm.
links to my books as well as to my podcast, which is wakingupspiritually.com.
All right, Wendy, we want to appreciate you, and I can't wait to turn it off to get you out of my head. But thank you very much. But appreciate you reaching out back to me, and I hope my men have found something compelling with this podcast because I've made some steps. I've been thinking about some things too. Thank you very much. But hold on,
You.
everybody. Thank you very much.